Yeah, I'm gonna try and do that, and just kind of turtle lay on the ground, so it's like I'm underneath it.
All right.
Yeah. Just waiting.
So 20 minutes pass, 30 minutes,
Fuck.
an
Shit.
hour. At
Fucker.
about the hour and a half mark, you feel the sand start to lessen, and then the wind stops howling. And as you peek out from your shield, you see the sandstorm has passed over you.
Fucking hell. I'll try to move all the sand off of me, dust myself off.
All right, easily enough, you pull yourself free of the sand. The crevice is quite full now, but you trudge your way through high waters. You've got sand. You got sand in places you don't want sand.
I hate this. I'm gonna start trudging through the desert, still in the direction that I was going originally.
All right.
This is so much fun. I love my job. Do I see any other? Do I see any semblance of like anything out here that looks like this is where that guy came from?
Make another perception check.
All right. That's a 15.
15. You scan the horizon, and you make out some odd shapes kind of moving slowly on the horizon to the right.
Mm-hmm.
And as you examine them closer, you can see that they're carts and carriages kind of slowly making their way along the edge of the horizon.
I'll start making my way towards that caravan.
All right. You begin to pick up pace as you begin to not run, not sprint, but lightly jog in their direction. And after about 20 minutes, you do kind of get close enough to see that there are about 5 carts, and all pulled by oxen. About 6 horses with people riding on the side, as they slowly start to. You see 2 of the horses break off and head in your direction.
Okay.
And as they get closer, you can see that they are dressed in loose-fitting robes with what looks like bandanas around their faces, and their hair's bleached by the sun. And they kind of approach. They put their hands on their swords, but they do not unsheath them. And they say, "Who are you?"
Just a drifter passing by. You guys haven't by any chance seen any sloth around, have you? Big toad-like creatures walk on 2 legs like men.
They kind of laugh to each other, and they say, "We have.
You have?
We encountered maybe 3 or 4. I'd say 2 or 3 days ago.
Killed them?
Yes."
I'll do an insight check.
Make an insight check.
All right, that is a unnatural 20.
They are being truthful.
Okay. All right. You killed them. That's good. Did any of your people die or be infected by any of them?
They kind of look to each other and say, "No, they were surprisingly weak."
Okay, that's good. I don't think they're used to the desert. Were they going in any particular direction, or did they ambush you all?
Well, no, we ambushed them.
Oh, okay. Well, were they going in a direction?
Well, we found them. They had set up a small camp near an outcropping of rocks. We spotted them in the distance and snuck up on them. We thought that they would be easy food, but after killing them, we realized their flesh was tainted, and it would be not a good idea to eat.
Yeah. What did you do with the corpses? Did you burn them?
He goes, "Yes, we burned them."
Good. All right. If you don't mind me asking, where are you guys headed?
We are headed to the Emerald City.
Oh. What direction is that in?
They kind of generally point in the direction the carts are going.
All right. Good to know. Well, well travels, or travel well, and I'm gonna. I mean, do you care for one more?
They kind of laugh to themselves and say, "We always accept travelers."
Okay.
As long
Are
as
these
you have
like-
stories to tell.
Oh, I have many stories to tell. Let me tell you. I've been walking for a while. Do you have a cart I can get in?
They kind of one of them gestures and hops off his horse and says, "Here, I will lead you to the carts."
Okay.
And you kind of saddle up, and he kind of gently leads the horse back to the carts.
Okay.
We're gonna take a quick break so I can get a drink.
Okay, cool.
I'm back.
Okay.
So he leads you to the to the carts, and like I said, there's about 5 or 6 carts. Each one is driven by 2 people, and as you approach, you see little heads poke out and people kind of peeking out from behind the cover. Some children hop down and run up, and they kind of just stare at you. And then the guard, or the one who's leading the horse, kind of says, "Pick a cart. You can rest there if you'd like."
All right, I'll get into the one. There's the one with the least amount of people.
All right, you hop into a cart in the rear, and inside there seems to be 2 people, an elderly couple. The man is fast asleep, and the woman is just kind of sitting there quietly, reading a book. She kind of.
I'm not going to say anything to anyone. I'm just going to pull my shoes off and try to get all the dust and sand out of it.
You dump a fair amount of sand out the back of the cart.
I'm just going to slump back, pull out my water skin, and just drink.
All right. As you do this, you can see the woman has stopped. She's folded her book, and she's just gently staring at you.
Can I help you, ma'am? Is there a problem? I don't mean to impose. I'm not bothering you, am I?
She goes, "Not at all. In fact, you are somewhat of a blessing. A new face is something we don't get to see a lot around here."
You ever seen a tiefling before?
She kind of shrugs and says, "I've seen lots."
Oh, good.
She goes, "But what I'm interested in is the story behind the tiefling." And she kind of stands up, and she's pretty small, maybe a halfling. You can't tell completely what she is.
Mm-hmm.
But she kind of approaches you and says, "If you're writing, it's not for free. We trade in stories, you see."
Okay. You want to know where I come from? Why I'm a tiefling?
Any story will do.
Well, my mom was a human, and my father was a vile, wretched fiend from the lower planes. He tricked her and had his way with her, and now I'm here. And I've dedicated my entire life to destroying things like that. Extraplanar beings of vile natures.
She just kind of nods gently.
I'll point to this the symbol on my shield. I'm a watcher. I'm a paladin. I'm a member of the Watchers Guild. I'll show her my hand with the 3 rings on my fingers.
Mm-hmm.
The white ring that's on my pointer finger, the black ring that's on my middle finger, and the white ring that's on my wedding finger, or ring finger.
All right.
And I'll hold those 3 fingers together, and kind of show how the white, black, white kind of looks like an eye in that kind of regard with the rings all lined up. Yeah. We're watchers. We're Order of Paladins. We go around and we purge and exorcise unwelcome extraplanar entities, ghosts, demons, aberrations, elementals, fae, you name it. We have a particular grudge against them.
She kind of just nods and smiles and says, "That story will get you a few hours in our cart."
A few hours?
She goes, "Yes, we trade in stories. It's not for free."
Ugh.
She goes, "Rest now. When it comes time for your next payment, I will come and get you." And she turns back, sits back down, and opens her book once again.
Cool. I'll rest.
All right. So you rest for a few hours. The sun begins to set, and you feel the carts kind of come to a stop. And as you peek out, you see that they're kind of encircling themselves and setting up a fire.
I'll come out. So, you said how many? If I wanted to stay with you guys until we got to the Emerald City, how big of a story would I have to tell you?
You can see they all kind of look to each other and start chuckling. And one of them raises his hand and says, 2 or 3 more stories?
2 or 3.
Depending on how... Or you could tell one story so good that it filled for all the rest.
Have I ever told you? Have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis? No. No.
Why, yes, he's in the cart behind me.
Wow. No. No. All right. Let's see. I will tell you. I'll tell you the tale of a vampire. A vampire of sorts. One who is both tragic and devilish. All the same. Are you familiar with the Ravenloft? I say to the group.
You can see some of the children kind of look to each other confused. Some of the elders kind of lean back and kind of just stare you down. And the middle-aged people are just kind of like, we've heard stories of Ravenloft.
Well, for those who do not know, Ravenloft is a plane within a plane. So there is this... We currently live on the material plane. And just below us is the Shadowfell. A sickly, vile, drab, macabre reflection of our plane. And within the Shadowfell, there is something known as Ravenloft. It is somewhat of a prison reality, one could say, for very dark, evil people and things. Creatures, beasts. So, at one point in time, there was a place, a kingdom known as Barovia, and it was sieged by a Strahd von Zarovich. That Strahd, he claimed Barovia, conquered it with his brother, and established a rather lovely castle. Oddly enough, he named the castle Castle Ravenloft, though, at the time, Barovia was not located in Ravenloft, but in fact the material plane, much like ourselves. Strahd fell in love, but the woman who he loved did not love him in return, for in fact she had fallen in love with a his brother. So, in an attempt to win her love, he made a deal with very dark, powerful entities and became a vampire. Some argue that he might be the first. I don't think he was the first, but he was one of the most powerful. However, so when becoming a vampire, you must, at least to become a vampire lord, you must, once the curse has been put in place, you aren't necessarily a vampire just yet. You have to kill someone who loves you, and then to be killed by someone who hates you. And when that happens, you become the curse full purpose grabs hold, and you become a vampire lord. He killed his brother, pushed him off of the ledge of Castle Ravenloft, and he plummeted to the earth and died. But in doing so, he was unaware that his beloved was watching. Heart-struck and terrified, she threw herself from the same railing and fell to her death. After this brutal murder, the guards and personal bodyguards of his brother killed Strahd. But in doing so, because they hated him while doing it, he rose again as a vampire. But this act caught wind of the domains of dread of Ravenloft, and the mist descended upon Barovia, pulling it from the material plane and supplanting it into Ravenloft, and that is where it sits. Strahd, forever cursed to live in his little prison of Barovia, surrounded by other domains of dread located in Ravenloft, but now he sits there, and from time to time, people might wander into Ravenloft on misty nights when a cold, dark, mysterious mist rolls in out of nowhere. Be very careful, for it could take you into Barovia, and if it takes you there, you know that Strahd will be aware of you, and he will attempt, well, he might not want to kill you at first. He might wish to play with you, torment you, taunt you. But in the end, you will always succumb. At least, the weak do. How was that story?
You can see the kids are kind of like leaning forward, just staring at you wide-eyed. The elderly people are laughing to themselves. And the old woman kind of puts her hand up and says, "We've heard that story before, but you did such a fabulous job telling it. You can ride with us to the Emerald City."
Excellent. If you'd like, I could tell you a story. I could tell you another story you probably haven't heard.
You can see she kind of cocks an eyebrow and says, "You have my interest."
So I've informed you about Ravenloft, and I've told you about Strahd, but did I ever tell you about the time that he was undone by a wizard who wore high heels?
They kind of look to each other, and they say, "Go on."
A wizard, not from our reality, at least not that I'm aware of. For you know that there are many material planes, there are many existences that exist, that are not extraplanar. The material plane, there are many worlds that inhabit it. And in one of those worlds, there was a wizard. His name was Zachary Sazerac, and he was a transmuting wizard. He traveled with a group, and they had managed to wander into the mists of Barovia, falling into the clutches of Ravenloft. However, him and his compatriots managed to, let's say, give Strahd a challenge he had never quite met before. For in Zachary Sazerac's group, they contained an individual who referred to themselves as the Black Knight, a man who could not die. At least no one had ever witnessed him die or even come close to it. He could, some would say, if you lopped off limbs, they would eventually grow back. And so you see, through the power... Oh, also, there was I believe a barbarian, an elven barbarian of sorts. Her name was Remini. She was rather powerful. There was a priest by the name of Flamethrower, a priest of some sort of fire god, not one that we know of in our existence. And I believe there was a rogue. Yes, a rogue. Oh, and a hunter. And you see that they traveled into Barovia, and let's say that Strahd had never quite met a group of individuals such as this. As they made their way through through Barovia, they managed to come to Strahd's castle and get inside. They were invited inside. However, he invited them to dinner. And this Zachary Sazerac, this wizard, had managed to... Strahd and him... Strahd believed he could trick the wizard into accompanying him into a room to where he could suck the blood out of the wizard and turn him into an undead thrall. However, what Strahd was unaware of is that the wizard drank a concoction that he lovingly called the Gypsy Curse. It was a concoction of garlic, silver shavings, and holy water. And he had drank it so much that silver was present in the wizard's blood. Not enough to harm him. It was in small pieces going through his blood. However, when the vampire began to drink his blood, he could tell. The wizard informed him, "Oh, there's silver in my blood." Well, as the blood is being pulled from his neck, he informed him, "There's silver in my blood." But Strahd, being a vampire lord, says, "Ah, yes, silver does not harm a vampire of my stature." And the wizard said, "Yes, I know this. However, no one is immune to a dagger in the heart." And being a transmuter, he transmuted the silver in the blood that Strahd had consumed, killing the vampire. Not permanently, merely turning him into mist for the vampire to escape. But in that moment, Strahd was terrified, for he had known, though he did not want to admit, that he had invited his death into the castle. The vampire weakened, fleeing, but so too was the wizard. However, his friends were able to get him, and they continued to look through the castle. They went down into one of the basements of the dungeons, and they had managed to come across a corrupted angel. They slew the angel, but after the fight, Strahd appeared, thinking, "Ah, yes, they have been weakened. I can take advantage of them." But he was unaware of the abilities of the Black Knight, who they kept in their among them. Through the battle, the cleric had fallen, and Strahd attempted to try and turn the cleric into a vampire. He locked the vampire and himself inside of a ring of force, a wall of force, but he did not realize that the Black Knight was also within that ring. And the Black Knight beat the vampire to death with his bare hands. However, when he turned to mist, he could not escape, for he had passed that and prevented himself from traveling fast, to which the wizard Once the wall had fallen, the wizard entrapped the vampiric mist into a resilient sphere and placed it inside of a bag of holding. And if you know a thing or two about vampires, children, is that if they are away from their crypts, if they are killed and reduced to mist and they are kept from their crypts for more than 2 hours, they die permanently. Well, the vampire died as mist in a pocket dimension inside of a handbag. And after killing the vampire, the party could have easily have stepped out of Barovia and left, but they decided against that and decided to claim the castle as their own. Yes, very fun little story about how Strahd von Zarovich met his end. So,
the children
yes.
kind of like wide-eyed, and they start clapping. You can see the middle-aged people start clapping as well. The old folks, they join in as well. The old woman kind of starts laughing to herself and says, "That was a good story. You should have led with that one."
Well, I had to lead with the first one, so you would get the context of the second story.
She kind of laughs to herself. Says, "You can join us on our trip to the Emerald City, as long as you like."
Excellent.
And that is where we will leave it off for tonight.
All right.